Good morning, everyone. My name is Seneca, and thank you so much for joining me here today for our intro to Textbook Tracker 7. We'll be showing you the basics, what changed from 4 to 7, as well as how you can do certain things here in the program. Now, a couple things about Textbook Tracker that you'll want to keep in mind here. Number one, Textbook Tracker 7 is completely web-based, meaning really all you'll need to access your interface is an up-to-date web browser. Now, I'm a fan of using Google Chrome, so you can use that or whatever ones are up to date. So Firefox, Safari, Microsoft Edge if you prefer. Now with that, there are also a couple different hosting types that you can have. Number one, you could be self-hosted, meaning that the actual area that the program's running from would be either on a computer or a server at your site. If you are in a school setting, that could also be at your district site. So that would also mean that the updates and database maintenance will need to be done on your end. Now you could also be cloud hosted, meaning that we house your data, but we would be the ones taking care of that database maintenance. So really in that case, all you need is internet access and an up-to-date browser. You don't have to worry about doing backups of the program or updates. We take care of that for you. Now, another thing here to keep in mind is Textbook Tracker is an asset management program. So things will look different than it did in 4. So just keep that in mind as we're moving here through the program today. Now, of course, you do have 24/7 support as well. So that anytime you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call and we'll help you out. Now, of course, you can email us as well if you prefer. Now, the way that you'll access your Textbook Tracker is by going to your URL. Now, if you are cloud hosted, you will have a URL with generally your school name or your facility name, and then .goalexandria.com. And you'll want to make sure you add this /TT for Textbook Tracker. Okay, and that's going to bring you directly to a login window. Now, let me go ahead and get logged in here. There we go. And as soon as you get logged in, you will go directly to your circulation screen. Now, your circulation screen, if you were used to using Textbook Tracker 4, hasn't changed too much. The processes are still the same. We'll kind of dive into that a little more here in just a moment though. What I want to show you first here is going to be at the top right-hand corner, you do have this question mark. That question mark will take you to the Textbook Tracker Support Center. And you'll have that question mark on any one of your interfaces here in the program. So if you ever want a little bit more information, feel free to use that question mark to get more information. If you have a little time on your hands, you want to know what you can do within a certain area, this is a great place to check out. Now, I'll come back here a little bit later, but I do just want to show that on our main page here, we do have this request help area. So if you'd like to send us a message, you can do that right from here and it will email us, okay? Now, you can also do it through the support tab as you'll see, but I just want to show you here as well. Now going back into our circulation page, you also have this little message bubble icon, and that will take you to the Textbook Tracker Message Center. That's where you can get release notes for what we've been doing within the program for updates and things along those lines. So if you ever see a little red dot there, feel free to click on this icon to see what we've added. Now, the first place that we are going to be going over here today are going to be our patrons. So let's scoot over here to the left-hand side and click on patrons. And you'll see right when I come in here, because I didn't have anyone pulled up on circulation, it's really just asking me what I'd like to do. You can add patrons, search for patrons, and then you have some quick searches to view recently added and recently modified records. Now, all of these are also found at the bottom left-hand side. You have that plus sign for adding. Here's a little quick search menu, and then your magnifying glass to search. Quick tip here, if you do have Alexandria as well as Textbook Tracker, they do share a patron database. So if someone's in charge of adding patrons in Alexandria, you don't have to worry about it here in Textbook Tracker because they would already be doing that for you. Okay, so those are completely shared. Now I use my little magnifying glass to perform a search. And this is where really you're just saying, who is it that you're searching for? If you're not seeing a specific field that you'd like to use, feel free and use the drop-down menus so you can see everything that you are able to search by. Now I'm gonna go ahead and search by my homeroom here. And if I click my other little magnifying glass, it'll give me a list of current homerooms that are in use. So I could come down and say I'm looking for Jones's class and search and get my list of patrons within that homeroom class. I'm going to go ahead and unlock this padlock. Quick tip, if you are making any changes to records manually, do just make sure you use that padlock to unlock the record so you're able to make those changes. And we do have a couple different tabs here at the top of our screen. Let's give you some information about what those are for. You do have your personal tab here, and this is more just generic information, things like their name. We do have a nickname field here, their unique barcode number, so that would be like their school ID or student ID. And you have some policies as well, so how is it that they are going to be circulating if you have teachers who are able to check out 20 Chromebooks, but students are only able to check out one, then that would be done with your policies. And then you do have some things like your homeroom, second location, things along those lines. Really, when you're adding patrons, first and last name, barcode, and policy are going to be the things you really want to pay attention to. But if you want to have more specific reporting, go ahead and add more information here. Our next tab is going to be for contact information. Now you do have two different email fields. You have your primary email and then other emails. So if you do want to send, let's say like email notices, you would have the option to select to send to just the primary or to both primary and other emails. The Access tab is going to be really important for you all, so people who need to be logging into Textbook Tracker. This is where you're telling the program really how much access do you have. The higher in this list you go, the more access you have. So the district administrator will have complete access to the entire program. Your textbook admin will have a lot of access as well, just maybe not access to the admin preferences. And then you have a textbook manager. Maybe that's someone who's logging in, helping check things out, or even adding textbooks for you. You will have username and passwords. The default username for patrons is their barcode number. The default password is their last name. So again, that was just barcode number and last name. Of course, for you all, I do suggest that you modify those when you're adding yourself, mainly so no one can guess what it is and check things out to themselves or maybe book drop things that they haven't really returned. You do have some notes here. So really the one I like to highlight are the alert notes. Those are like a pop-up reminder that will show up in the circulation screen when a patron is made current. So if they keep losing their chargers for their Chromebooks and you want a note of that because you told them last time that they couldn't have any more, well, that's like a little reminder for you. And then lastly, you do have some statistics. So the textbook statistics would be on the right-hand side of that little slash. So how many items do they have out? If you wanted to keep track of any fines, payments, as you see, this isn't showing you the specifics. If you would like more specific, you would want to click Show History. Or if you want to see more of their current standings, like what items do they have checked out right now, or what are their fines? Then you'll want to go into your actions menu and go to show details. And I'll show you what that looks like when we're in the circulation screen. Next, we are going to be going over some textbooks. This is where all of your assets will be, things like textbooks, of course, or any equipment that you're keeping track of. Just like your patron interface, you will have those same 4 buttons: the add a textbook, search for textbooks, and then our 2 quick searches for recently added and recently modified. Again, those are all found at the bottom left-hand side as well. Now let's do a search here. And same as with your patrons, if you're not seeing specifically what you'd like, definitely use those drop-down menus. I'm going to go ahead and leave this just blank and click search to get just a list of my items here. For your textbooks tab, you do just have the one title information. So this is going to hold things like your title ID. This is a unique field for the specific title. Makes it really easy if you want to import a big batch of items and make sure that they all go to the same title record. And then of course you have your title, the author, and if you want to keep track of it, you also have department. That's a field that you are able to run reports on as well. Then off to the right-hand side, you have things like the stock number, your budget code, and when the district and state adopted this specific textbook. Now for your copies, same thing, we have our copy information. This is for the unique actual barcoded copies of these textbooks or assets that you have. So you will have that unique barcode number. You have locations if you want to keep track of maybe where in your facility these are held. The costs, you have your serial number there. That's a field that you can search for. So if you're not sure what the barcode number was for an iPad, but you have that serial number, it'll be important that it's in here. Now you also have some notes for your items as well. So your copies do have alert notes. This can really come in handy if you, instead of having one title record for, I'll just use an iPad again as an example, and you have the chargers for those iPads and you don't want them to be separate, but you want to make sure that every time something's checked out, that charger is going with it, or when it's returned, that charger is coming back. You can have that alert note. And again, that's just like a little pop-up reminder within your circulation screen. I'm going to pop back over here to my textbooks, and I wanted to add a new textbook here. Just making sure I didn't already have it listed. It looks like I do. So I'm going to quickly remove this one here, and we're going to go through the steps of re-adding it. So, removing this textbook, maybe it's not in use anymore. It's a pretty old edition. So we can come to my gear and click remove textbook. Keep in mind, this will remove the textbook and all of its copies. All right, so now that that's gone, let's go ahead and re-add it here. Making sure I am on that textbooks tab, I will use my plus sign, and it will then give me this blank record. Really, the most information that's required is a title. But as I mentioned, if you want more specific reports, you will want to add more information there. So for me, I will add that title ID. That can be like the course number that it's in. I'll add my title there. There we go. I also want to be able to run reports and see the author, so let's go ahead and add that. And maybe let's do my year. And I want to make sure I can see all of my art department things, so I will also add my department there. Now, once you have your textbook title created, then you'll want to click Save at the top right-hand corner. That'll let you know, hey, you've added a new title, but you don't have any copies for that yet. And what would you like to do? We'll say add, and that will switch you over to the copies tab, where now you'll want to add your first copy. If you do have like a pre-printed stack of barcode labels that you want to use, perfect. Go ahead, just take one of those labels off, stick it on the textbook, and you can scan that into this barcode field. Of course, you are able to run barcode numbers from your program as well. So if you don't have those pre-printed ones, no worries, leave this field blank. Textbook Tracker will assign a barcode for you, and then you'll want to run a report that I'll show you here in just a moment to then print those off. So I'll go ahead and leave mine blank there. And I'll say the most important thing for me here is going to be my purchase and replacement cost. So then we're gonna go ahead and click save. And now that I have my first one here saved, what you could do to add a lot more really quickly is go to your gear menu and go to duplicate copy. If you do have those beginning barcode numbers, go ahead and add that in that beginning barcode field. If not, again, just leave that blank and tell the program how many of these are you going to need. I'll say I need a total of 500, so I need 499 more. Duplicate. We'll give that a moment to add all of those for me. And now you'll see I have a total of 500 with all of those barcoded and ready for me to then print off their barcodes with the report. Now I did show you how to remove a textbook, but if you had one specific copy that you want to remove, just make sure that you do go to that copies tab to find the actual barcode number that you'd like to remove. I'll choose this one here, and using that gear actions menu, remove that copy. That way I still have my other 499, but maybe that one that was really damaged, or I didn't actually have it and I accidentally added an extra one, is out of the system. All right, so the next area we're gonna start going over is our circulation. Now, Textbook Tracker will bring up the last patron and last item that you had pulled up. I personally am a fan of clearing this out, just starting from scratch. So if you are like me, go ahead and use the X command and enter. And it will then just make sure that there's no current patron and no current item. That X command will also reset you to your checkout mode. So just so everyone is aware there. Now, off to the left-hand side with our modes, we have many modes that you can go into. If you are going to be removing things from your collection, but you might need to get a report at the end of the year to see everything that you've removed, I do suggest you go into that discard mode. That will give you options for what it is or why it is that you are removing those. So was it because it got damaged and it wasn't able to be repaired, or you're just weeding those from the collection since you're adopting a new textbook next year. Now, just for anyone that is new, book drop is our terminology for check-in. So just keep that in mind. If you are book dropping a big stack of items, you can go into that book drop mode. I'll go back into my checkout there. Your commander barcode line is where you would enter the barcode number of the patrons that you would want to check out. So you do need to be in checkout mode first, then bring up a patron. With that patron pulled up, that's when you can go through and then check out an item to them. Let's see if I remember that number that we just had. Looks like I didn't get that one right. Let's pop over to my item and grab one of those barcodes. I just missed 1 0. Now I could enter that barcode there, or because I already have it pulled up, so if you were looking up a textbook, if it's pulled up with the patron you're wanting to check it out to, go ahead and just put an equal sign in that command or barcode line and enter, and you'll then see that gets checked out to Darla here. Now we have a couple pieces of information that you can see. We have, of course, your name and the title of your textbook, their barcode numbers. Now here you will have the policy of the patron and the policy of the item. Now that's going to be important because if you're ever seeing maybe your due dates don't look right, maybe it's not for everything though, we'll want to look at the policies and try to do some digging on why those two are maybe working weird together, or make sure there's not like an exception happening. Now for your patrons, you will have your locations. So in my case, it's my homeroom and my second location, how many items they have checked out, if any of those were overdue. This will also show things like their fines or if they have any credits as well. And then for my item, I have that title ID, the status of the specific barcode copy I have, my copy condition, replacement cost, and which site it is at. Now let's go ahead and look at our patron details here. So this is a nice little snapshot of everything that they have. So maybe at the end of the year, once you want to start gathering things again, you can print this off to give to the students or email it so they know everything that they should be returning. At the very end, it will also show you any charges. Now you also have a lookup button. So if you're checking something out to a patron and they don't know what their barcode number is, you can always click lookup to get a lookup window. You can do a search for either first or last name. So if I wanted to say like Dustin, you'll see it pulls up anyone with that name of Dustin, and I could then scroll through and choose the one I was looking for. Quick little tip here, we also have a command that is attached to that lookup, and it's just the L command, where I could type L, enter. Here's my patron lookup window again. Or I can even do an L space, and let's say I do A and D, enter. And that'll perform that search for me, looking for anyone with a last name that starts with A and D and anyone with a first name that starts with A and D. So if you don't have the barcode number, that could be a really quick way to pull people up. For your items over here, you do have a copy list. This will show you all the copies of the item that you have and its status. So I should have a ton of available ones here. And let's scroll down and you'll see the one that's checked out will tell me who it's checked out to and when that is due. Now your copy stats are more for this specific copy that I have pulled up. It'll show me who is it that has it checked out, the last 5 people that had that checked out as well, and my modification history. So this is a great way to get information specifically about the one copy you have. And you also have a lookup button for your titles. So if I wanted to just look something up quickly without having to go into textbooks and look it that way, I can just click look up and enter the title that I was looking for. Say algebra. And it will then bring those up for me. All right, now we do have this nice big row of tabs here in the middle of my screen. Our circulation transaction log is showing you just what is it that I'm doing within my circulation window. Who am I checking things out to? If I'm book dropping items or marking things as discards, that will be a running list of what I'm doing. Now your second tab here for homeroom is a list of the current homerooms that you have that are in use. and who is in that homeroom. So this is another great way, if you are checking things out by like their class, to bring them up and bring them up quickly without having to maybe enter their barcode numbers or even do the lookup. I can say Copeland is next, and then just double click on their name. So that way that person becomes current, and I could then check an item out to them. Now we do have an items out, and let's bring up Darla here one more time. So this is showing me for this current patron, what items do they have checked out? This is where you can renew all of their items at once, or if I select one here, say Algebra 2, I can change its due date, renew that one item, and I can also declare this lost. Now, if you're going to be declaring items lost and you want it to keep track of charges, I suggest that you do it right through this screen here. That way, Textbook Tracker is saying, I know that Darla lost this. If it returns, it keeps track of that, okay? So if we click Declare Lost, it will want to make sure that yes, it is really lost. And then it will issue a charge of the replacement cost to that patron. And then if Darla said, I know I lost my algebra book and I brought you $50 so I can get a new one, you can make that payment here. You can also forgive charges. Now, I'm gonna say that she brought in $25. So she's still gonna have that remaining balance. And we'll process. You will see that Algebra 2 book now says it's in a lost status, but if we cleared this out and said it's been a couple weeks, she's found her lost item, really all I would need to do is enter that barcode number into my circulation screen. And it will then check that item back in. Here's my $25 charge that she still has. But, oh, did I scan that one wrong? Looks like I grabbed the wrong barcode. Let's grab Algebra 2. I got my numbers mixed up. Here we go. So, has this item been found? We'll say yes. She still has that $25 charge, so now this is where it's saying, well, here's our refund. If you'd like to refund the payment that she made, you can also forgive whatever charge is left over, or if you do have a reshelving fee, you can charge that extra fee. Now I'm gonna go ahead and refund her payment, and I will also forgive the rest of it. So when we process, she now has a credit of $25, and we have no longer that charge on her. Now over here on the Charges tab is where you can see under the Main Charges sub-tab, any charges that she currently had. So if you want to maybe charge a new fine, you can also make payments or just give her a receipt of all of her charges that she has. And think of payments as more of the history. So you'll see the payment that she made of $25, my refund that I processed, and then I also forgave the rest of that. So this is where you can kind of see all of her history. Once you select one of these, you have a couple different options. You can refund payments, you can just look at its details, add and refund credits, and print receipts. Your support tab is where you are able to email our customer support. So if you are already in circulation and maybe you don't want to have to go to your own email or go into the support center, just pop over to the support tab and send us an email. Any questions that you have, and you'll see you can reach our customer support, you can reach me in the training department, and you can also reach other areas of our company as well. So if you had a specific question for sales, feel free to email them from here as well. Now, special is where you can see your status, which more importantly is when your subscription expires. The system information, if you are self-hosted, this is going to be important so you can see the version that you're currently on. But for everyone, I like to point out that you do have some basic numbers over here to the right-hand side. So if you want to see the total amount of textbook titles you have and how many copies, then this is a quick way to do it rather than running a full report. And then your license information is telling you what you're licensed to use within the program. Now, for anyone that is a fan of those keyboard shortcuts or those commands, feel free to come over to the command help, and we do have quite a bit of them. So if you're looking for one specific, you can always use this filter field, or of course, you can always give us a call as well. All right, so now that we're hopefully feeling more comfortable with our circulation, let's talk about some different tools. One of the main tools that I really like to go over are going to be your reports. So for an example, we did just add all of those textbooks to the program. Now, if you want to print off the barcode labels for those, we would be here under Tools and Reports. Now that is attached to the textbook copy, so we'll make sure we're under that category. And here we have our copy labels. Those are formatted for a 3x10 label sheet, so 3 labels across, 10 labels down, and those are for those barcodes. Now, on your selections, I like to click that Show Additional Selections there at the bottom, just so you're able to see everything you can select by. Really, I see people mostly use the Copies Added. So when was this added? If I wanted to say everything from today, great, just click Today through Today. Now another great field here is the Copies with Barcodes. So if you have a barcode label that's been damaged, maybe it was ripped or drawn on, either way you're not able to scan it anymore, you can use this as a barcode list. So just make sure you do have a carriage return between those labels or numbers. I'm going to stick with my date range for everything that we added today. And then on your options tab, you're telling the program, what do you want printed on this label? I do like to suggest you work from the top down. So maybe I want here on my top row, well, choose my data drop down to select that. You can have your department. You can also have your site name if you'd like, or of course some custom text. I think I'm going to go with my site name at the top. And if you did want that to be large, keep in mind the field underneath does have to be blanked out. So here, because it was empty, I can choose large 2 rows. But I'm also going to say I want something else here, and I want that to be my department. So you see that size is now grayed out because there's something beneath it. It's not able to take up that second row. You do have some labels to skip. So keep in mind this does work from the top left-hand side, moving to the right, and you're just saying how many you'd like to skip there. I'm gonna say I need 7 of them. If you do want more than one copy of each label printed out, feel free to add that here as well. Now, once you click Run, that will go into your Operations Management, which is your little wrench icon here at the top right-hand side. Here we have my labels that are complete. Use my PDF icon to open those up. You'll see that I have some labels that were skipped there, and then my customization that I've added. Now, something to keep in mind here is that I am now outside of Textbook Tracker. I'm using whatever PDF viewer is the main one on my computer. So mine is just using Chrome right now. So keep that in mind. If you're having any trouble printing this out, or maybe the sizing isn't correct, you will want to either try a new PDF viewer, or one of the first things I would check is that there's no sizing happening. Let's see if Chrome is going to give me the right option. So if I go to print here, And let's open this up in my preview since Chrome isn't showing me what I'd like. File print. So sometimes you'll see something like this here, like a scale to fit. I've seen fit to page. Really, what you're going to want to do is make sure you either select something that says actual size, or if you do have a scale, you can just set that to 100%. That way, your PDF viewer isn't trying to change the sizing. It's just going to make sure that it's as the program intended. Go ahead and close out of some of these. Now, another report that might be beneficial is seeing what is currently checked out. So that will be under our circulation category. And you have a loaned textbooks information. You'll notice you also have an overdue items notice. So if you do want to let people know what they have overdue, feel free to use that one. But for now, I'm just going to say I want a list of things that are currently checked out. Same thing on your selections. I would suggest that you show additional selections there. Now, if you wanted to narrow this down to say, I only want my equipment, make sure that you do have those all in a policy. I do not, so I would just choose textbooks. Or, if you're looking for specific homerooms or titles, that information can all be found here. Now, I will narrow this down because I have a lot of items checked out, so let's do a homeroom of Jones again. I know there's things in there. And on your options tab, you can sort that information differently if you'd like and change your formatting. Generally, I think the one line gives you plenty of information, but of course, if you do want to see other info, just play around with those other formats and choose the one that works best for you. So same thing, we're going to click run, and that will go into my operations management. Give that a moment to get recognized and use my PDF to download and open. So all the things that are checked out for Jones's class. Quite a bit of them. I would say those are probably the more commonly used reports. Of course, if you're looking for anything specific, definitely let us know. We can go in and kind of play around and see what report's going to be best for your needs. And as I said, you have that 24-hour support, so feel free to use it. Now, there's not many utilities that I see used too much, but I will show you what that interface looks like. So it is very similar to reports in the way it looks, but just keep in mind that your utilities for changing information. So if you were wanting to remove any items in batch, this would be the area that you would do it. Your reports is just giving you info. Now, if you are the one in charge of importing your patrons or items, you can do that with your import tool. And again, just keep in mind that if you have Alexandria and Textbook Tracker, it will share that patron database. So you do not have to do the import twice if you are working in both. Now, for your patrons, it does have to be in a tab delimited format. So please keep that in mind when you are adding your patrons. If you have a student information system, I think the easiest thing to do is to export the information into like an Excel file. The reason I say Excel is because I think it's the easiest one to just go up and choose the format you want to save it as. And once you have your file saved, you can either drag and drop it into this area here, or click Choose File. Here are some MARC records. I'll go to some patron ones here. And once you have your file selected, you'll do your field mapping. So field mapping is you telling Textbook Tracker where's this information actually going. On the left-hand side, you have the headers that are on the file. The right-hand side are the fields you're able to import into. So we'll just want to make sure those line up horizontally by clicking and dragging the right-hand side to match up with the left. Grade there in my homeroom. Once everything is lined up correctly, we'll click Set. And then I do suggest you click Skip First Record. That way it's not adding an extra patron with the header information, thinking that it's an actual record you want to add. If you are in a centralized catalog, just make sure you are selecting the correct site that you're wanting to import into. You are able to also change the policy, the security group. I would say more oftentimes than not, people are just leaving these as the defaults. And you are able to allow the import to modify existing records, so matching on their barcode number, their student number. And for your starting patron barcode, this will be ignored unless you are not including a barcode number in the file. So if you're adding staff members who don't already have a unique identifying number, well, this is where it would start from. We'll click Run. It will tell you that the import has been queued and to see operation management. So we can say OK. And use our information icon there to see really what was done. Just scroll down to the details to see anyone that was added or modified. Now, just a little thing to keep in mind, you do have that quick search under the patron management, so you can also go over there and do a quick search to see everyone that was modified recently or added recently. And for your textbooks, you will want to be under the textbooks category. And you are able to, if you have a type of MARC record, you are able to add those here. Or if you are adding, just textbooks in a file that you've created or assets such as equipment, then that will also need to be in a tab delimited format. Now, I don't have one here on hand, but it would be the same process. You would save it, drag and drop, or click Choose File, and then make sure you do your field mapping. Now, more importantly here, you have your settings. If you are just doing a regular import you're wanting to add, but make sure it's updating as well, go ahead and leave this as the default add or update titles and copies. Now, if you want to make sure that nothing is being updated, it's all just brand new information, you can add titles and copies, or if it's only going to be for updates such as modifying the department for a bunch of items. So you're not wanting to actually change or add anything, go ahead and choose that last one there. Now you do have the option on how it will match on those titles. You have the title ID or the ISBN. So if you are adding Chromebooks, I would have that specific title ID there so it knows that those are all the same. And you can skip that first record if you are field mapping. And then you also have your barcode handling here. So with your textbooks, it is not matching on that barcode. So it is important that you realize that it's not allowed to have duplicate barcodes. So if you do have a duplicate barcode on your file, this is the next barcode number that it will assign for that duplicate, okay? And then your options is completely optional information. If you wanted to add the vendor for all of those or the specific location it's going to be in. You also have your title policy. So if you were doing equipment versus textbooks, you can modify that here as well. All right, let's close out of some of these tabs again and talk about our preferences. I would say some of the more important ones that you'll want to check out are, of course, your patrons. You want to keep that history for your patrons, disable your account expiration dates. Now, quick little tip here, if you are using both Alexandria and Textbook Tracker, you can see which preferences are applying to both. So up here, we're saying that this is a system-wide preference. So no matter what site you're at. And then the A/TT is saying this is for both Alexandria and Textbook Tracker. Now your patron defaults, you have the next barcode. If you would like to add a barcode number that Textbook Tracker, will assign for you. And your policy plus security groups. The patron pictures, you are able to modify these. You just drag and drop the picture you'd like. These are just the defaults that are displayed if you do not provide an individual patron picture. And then you'll also have your grade table. So where you can go in, make sure that this is matching correctly for your site and that the numbers are exactly as they would be in the patron records. So if you're zero padding, make sure you have that zero pad as well under the grade column. And this is where you can also advance all your grades. So I would suggest making sure that this grade table looks correct. Then you would just click advance all grades one time, and then it will go through and advance them. Then you have your textbooks. This is going to be important for that next barcode. So again, if you're importing, what the next barcode number will be for duplicates, or when you're just adding them in general, if you're allowing the program to issue those for you. Now today we will end off here under our policies. As I mentioned, your policies are really what are driving that circulation. Another thing that they do is group together the statistics as well. So just keep that in mind. By default, you will just have standard patron and system patron. If you're looking at your textbook tracker and you have other policies there, those are going to be ones that someone at your site has created. Now here, since we are at the beginning of the year, I just like to suggest that everyone go through and check your policies, make sure they're set up as you'd like for this year. You have your checkout tab. How many charges are they allowed to have before the program starts telling you, hey, they have exceeding charges, maybe don't check out to them. Their maximum loaned items. If you'd like the items to be due on a specific day, you're able to do that as well. The overdue tab is how many overdue items they can have at once before, again, the program tries to block them from checking anything out. And then other is going to be more specific for Alexandria. So if you do just have Textbook Tracker, feel free to ignore this other tab. Now for your item policies, the defaults will just be that standard item, system item, and textbook. Again, if you wanted to have a separate policy for equipment because it's checked out differently than textbooks, then feel free to add that. And our rules are going to be for the checkout. If you want to have a loan fee, the default purchase and replacement cost. Let's go ahead and actually choose our textbook here. And say my textbooks are defaulted to $50 there. How many renewals they can have. And you also have a hard due date or a transaction period. Now your hard due date is a specific day, generally at the end of the term or the end of the year, where things have to be due. It doesn't matter if you checked it out on the first day of that term or year or the 20th. It's always going to be due on a specific date. Now your transaction period is just saying this will be due in 14 days. You also have the option for no loan period or same day checkouts. And then for your overdues, how much are you charging per day that this item is overdue? If you want to give them a grace period, and really one that I think is important is declaring lost when they've been overdue for so many days. So if something's overdue for 30 days, just have the program automatically check it out to lost. That way the patron gets charged for it. And then again, other is more for like your holds and reservations, so you won't have to worry about that here in Textbook Tracker. Now you will see that I have an exceptions box here in the middle. Exceptions is specifically saying I'm making an exception to the rule. So maybe because I only have standard and system patron, I want my staff members to check out textbooks differently than the rest of my standard patrons. So what I can do is add a new patron policy, just say add here at the bottom left-hand side. And my policy will be just staff. Now, policy shortcode is required. Usually it's just an abbreviation, something you can quickly look at and know which policy that is. Your statistics group, so if I wanted my staff members to have their own statistics, I could do that with that current policy. And then the defaults from, I'm leaving a standard patron because I'm going to go in and make some changes to their rules anyway. So let's say add. Now, this is where I want to modify this here. So alert when charges exceed, we'll still leave that as 25, but I want my staff members, instead of 5 items out, they can have 30. The overdue, we'll say same thing, they can have 30 items overdue as well. And then once we click save, so they are able to have more items, but as of right now, my staff would have a 14-day transaction period. What I can do is click this exceptions, and it's locking in place those staff members with my textbook policy. And I'm going to say they have a hard due date in June 2022. We'll say the 17th. And that will branch out, so that's where my exception is being made. And once I click save, you'll see I now have a little yellow bar around it, even when this is not checked. So if I went over to standard patron, that bar is not there because there's no exception being made there. You can also remove your exceptions. Make sure that that is selected with the 2 that are having an exception, and use your little gear menu at the bottom of whichever policy side you'd like to remove. And you can remove all exceptions between these 2 or just your item exceptions. And save. All right, everyone, so that is going to bring us to the end of our basics of Textbook Tracker 7. I am going to go ahead and end our meeting here. Again, just thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye, everyone.